As the boat approaches the small island in the Venetian Lagoon, a feeling of unease begins to creep over you. The island, known as Poveglia, has a dark and haunting history that has left it abandoned and largely untouched for many years. As you step ashore, the silence is almost deafening, broken only by the sound of your own footsteps on the overgrown path that leads towards the abandoned buildings. The island is a place of legends and superstitions, and you can feel the weight of its dark history bearing down upon you. The air is thick with the musty scent of decay, and the rusted metal doors and broken windows of the asylum buildings creak in the gentle breeze. The bell tower rises ominously in the distance, a stark reminder of the island's macabre past. The abandoned buildings loom overhead, their windows shattered and their walls crumbling. The island's reputation as a quarantine zone and mental hospital only add to the eerie atmosphere. A haunting, otherworldly odor permeates the air, as if the veil between the dead and the living have been lifted, and you can feel the dampness seeping into your bones. You enter the first building, an old quarantine station, and immediately feel a chill run down your spine. You can't help but feel a sense of foreboding as you explore the empty hallways and rooms, wondering about the countless lives that were lost in this place. The silence is deafening, broken only by the sound of your footsteps echoing through the empty halls. As you make your way through the gloomy and still rooms, you can't help but imagine the screams of the sick and dying that once filled these walls. As you move on to the next building, you feel a cold breeze on the back of your neck. The building was once a psychiatric ward, and you can feel the weight of the madness that once resided here. The peeling paint on the walls bore witness to the past, and the room resembled a graveyard for outdated medical devices. You can't shake the feeling that something is watching you from the shadows. The walls are adorned with graffiti and paint, but the stories they tell are nothing but faint. Equipment scattered about is a stark reminder of the pain, fear, and doubt. With each step you take, the floorboards creak, and the shadows around you seem to constantly peak. You can hear whispers in the wind and footsteps in the night. The hairs on the back of your neck stand upright. The silence is broken by a faint, airy sound, as if something is moving deep underground. You try to shake the feeling that something's watching you, but the more that you try, the more it feels true. Your heart races faster as you turn to leave, but the door is locked and your nerves start to heave. You're trapped in this place with no way out, and the shadows around you start to shout. You close your eyes, hoping to escape this fright, but when you open them again, you're still in this blight. The remnants of the past have come back to haunt, and the fear in your heart is starting to taunt. You're surrounded by darkness. You can't see a thing, as you scream out in terror for the fear that it brings. As you navigate through the debris and remnants, the feeling of being watched becomes more pronounced. Every creak and rustle of the discarded equipment seems to be amplified, causing your heart to race even more. You try to shake the feeling, but it persists like a persistent itch in the back of your mind. As you glance towards the shadows, you can't help but wonder what could be lurking there, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself. The hairs on the back of your neck stand on end, and you can feel a bead of sweat trickling down your forehead. You take a deep breath and remind yourself it's probably just your imagination playing tricks on you. But as you take a step forward, you can't help but feel that something is about to pounce from the darkness. As you continue your exploration, you come across a crumbling bell tower. The wind whips through the tower, sending shivers down your spine. You feel a sudden urge to leave the island, but something compels you to stay. As the sun sets and darkness envelops the island, you hear strange whispers and footsteps following you. You turn around and nobody's there. The shadows grow longer, and you realize you're not alone on the island. The hairs on the back of your neck stand on end, and you feel a sense of foreboding, as if something is silently observing your every move, waiting for the right moment to pounce. You try to leave, but the island seems to have a hold on you. You feel like you're being drawn deeper into its dark and twisted history. You realize that you may never leave this haunted island, and that you are doomed to wander its abandoned buildings forever, trapped in its eerie and haunted embrace. The following story is a work of fiction inspired by the dark history and legends surrounding Poveglia Island. This small island in the Venetian Lagoon has a chilling past, having served as a quarantine station during the Black Death and later as a mental asylum where patients were subjected to brutal treatments and experiments. While the island is now abandoned and off limits to visitors, rumors of paranormal activity and ghostly sightings persist. Poveglia Island's dark and twisted history is enough to make even the bravest of souls shudder with fear. In this video, I will delve into the depths of Poveglia's past, exploring the unspeakable horrors that earned it the title of the most haunted island in the world. From the screams of plague victims to the tortured souls of the mentally ill who were experimented on and left to die, Poveglia Island has been witness to some of the most malevolent acts in human history. The ghosts of the past still linger on this forsaken island, their anguished moans and spectral whispers haunting the island's every corner. Let's uncover the chilling secrets that have made Poveglia Island a place of unspeakable terror, where the living dare not to tread. Poveglia is a small island located in the Venetian Lagoon, between Venice and Lido. The island has a dark history and is considered by many to be very haunted. In the 1700s, the island was used to quarantine plague victims, and during the 1800s, it was converted into an asylum for the mentally ill. It is estimated that thousands of people died on the island during this time. According to legend, a doctor who worked at the asylum carried out horrific experiments on patients and eventually went mad and throwing himself from the bell tower. The island was closed to the public for many years, but is now possible to visit with special permission. The abandoned buildings, including the asylum and the bell tower, are still standing and attract curious visitors interested in the island's dark history. In recent years, there have been proposals to redevelop the island. But many locals and preservationists are opposed to these plans, arguing that the island's history should be preserved and that any redevelopment would be disrespectful to the thousands of people who suffered and died there. Poveglia Island is considered to be one of the most haunted places on Earth due to the numerous unexplained incidents that occurred there. So, the island recently has been permanently closed to visitors for safety reasons. While an Italian businessman, Luigi Brignaro, acquired the island from the Italian government in 2014 for a sum of $400,000 and has the option to release it for 99 years, it remains inaccessible to the public. The calm and tranquility of the island was disrupted when, one by one, its inhabitants vanished without a trace. However, the true horror was yet to come, with the arrival of the Black Death, also known as the bubonic plague in the 1300s. Poveglia Island was repurposed as a dumping ground for the sick and contagious and dying. It became a quarantine colony of the most gruesome kind, where the suffering and torment of those afflicted knew no bounds. Regrettably, the strategy failed to achieve its intended outcome. Those afflicted with the plague on Poveglia were accommodated in vast communal structures known as lazarettos, where they were frequently segregated based on gender and the intensity of their symptoms. On numerous occasions, the island's many structures were overcrowded, unhygienic, and inadequately ventilated, creating an ideal environment for the disease to propagate under these abysmal circumstances. Furthermore, they were treated with substandard methods such as archaic herbal concoctions or bloodletting, which only served to intensify their already deteriorating conditions. The disease was so severe that many of those who were sent to the island never returned, creating an eerie atmosphere. The workers had to bury the bodies of the deceased on the island, and it's estimated that over 160,000 individuals died and were buried on the island during the 18th and 19th centuries. Some records even suggest that due to the high mortality rate, workers ran out of space to bury the dead, resulting in alternative methods such as burning or leaving the bodies in piles to decay. After being used as a quarantine for the plague, Poveglia Island was repurposed as a mental asylum during the 20th century. However, similar to the treatment of the plague patients, the island became a place where the mentally ill were severely mistreated and neglected. The island's reputation took a darker turn as it became an asylum notorious for its ghastly treatment of patients. Numerous reports have surfaced of unspeakable abuse, neglect, and savage medical experiments being conducted on the helpless patients. It's been reported that patients were subjected to brutal beatings, cruel restraints, and prolonged periods of isolation. From the moment a person was deemed mentally ill and taken to Poveglia Island, all hope of redemption and rehabilitation was lost. The island was designed solely to isolate these individuals and cast them out of society. It's crucial to acknowledge that, in the past, any deviation from the accepted social and cultural norms was regarded as a sign of mental illness. This meant that anyone who was viewed as different or non-conforming could be labeled as mentally ill and subjected to confinement. As per the eerie local lore, inmates of Poveglia's asylum claim to have witnessed creepy apparitions, seemingly belonging to the Poveglia Island, cut off from the world and forced to endure inhuman treatment, is enough to send shivers down one's spine. The asylum's head physician, Dr. Masello, was known for his brutal experiments on the patients and often performing lobotomies without anesthesia. The screams of the tortured patients could be heard, echoing throughout the island. As a result of these dreadful deeds, the physician was relentlessly haunted by malevolent phantoms that drove him to the brink of insanity, compelling him to take a fatal leap from the looming clock tower that looms over the lagoon. It is rumored that he didn't perish from the fall, but was instead suffocated by an enigmatic mist that enveloped him before he hit the ground. Even though the bell was removed years ago, on tranquil and hushed nights, its toll can still be heard echoing across the bay, evoking a profound feeling of dread. In the 1950s, the asylum was closed and the island was abandoned, but the horrors that had occurred there didn't disappear. Visitors to the island have reported hearing disembodied screams and footsteps and feeling cold spots, and even seeing apparitions of the island's tortured past. One particular eerie story involves a group of paranormal investigators who visited the island to conduct a seance. As they sat in the asylum's old operating room, they suddenly heard the sound of a bell tolling from the tower. When they went to investigate, they found the tower locked and abandoned. The investigators continued their seance, but soon they began to feel a sense of overwhelming dread. Suddenly, one of the members of the group began to convulse and scream, as if possessed by some malevolent force. The other investigators fled the island, leaving their possessed friend behind. Today, the island remains off limits to the public, and those who dare to venture there risk encountering the vengeful spirits of Poveglia. The past is rife with accounts of unspeakable cruelty inflicted on patients, including barbaric treatments such as electroconvulsive therapy and lobotomies. These procedures often resulted in excruciating and agonizing deaths, with the victims buried alongside the remains of those who succumbed to the plague centuries earlier. Poveglia Island, with its history steeped in tragedy and horror, is believed by many to be a site haunted by the tortured souls of the deceased, their anguished spirits forever trapped in a realm between life and death. Countless records of spectral apparitions and unsettling sounds have been documented on the island, such as the piercing wails and haunting groans and chilling laughter emanating from the deserted structures. Several guests have described experiencing an ominous sensation of foreboding or discomfort while exploring the island, while some reporting uncanny assaults or inexplicable shoves from imperceptible entities. The island's prolonged abandonment and remote location have only further cemented its status as a forsaken and haunted site. The island has been off limits to visitors for years, left to wither away and rot, intensifying the already eerie and unnerving ambience. It's important to acknowledge that the ghostly tales surrounding Poveglia are founded on whispers and fables, and there's no empirical validation to corroborate these otherworldly encounters. Nevertheless, those who have encountered these apparitions remain convinced of their authenticity, lending credence to the rumors that surround the island in a shroud of mystery and dread. The haunting and sinister past of Poveglia Island is not for the faint-hearted. Following the shutdown of the asylum, the island was left to decay in solitude and has remained untouched ever since. The island remains off limits to the public, deemed a safety hazard, even though some have risked it all to uncover the truth behind its macabre legends. Here are some of the reported paranormal sightings on the island. For 4 centuries, the ghostly figure of little Maria has been sighted wandering the desolate beach, her pitiful weeping echoing throughout the abandoned structures. It is said that the child perished from the plague, and her tragic spirit remains trapped on the island, unable to move on. The abandoned hospital still echoes with the restless spirits of those who suffered within the walls. Visitors claim to hear the frantic racing of a phantom wheelchair, once belonging to Pietro, a man with no legs who once roamed the halls. Many have claimed to hear the hysterical laughter of a mill that echoes through the empty corridors, while the ghostly figure of a young woman, her face twisted in terror, is often seen cowering from the mad doctor who still conducts his gruesome experiments on the island. Beneath the murky waters, a pair of enormous eyes stare back at those who venture too close, while phantom faces peer out from behind the asylum's grimy windows, their tortured souls forever trapped within its walls. Thank you all for watching. If you liked it, please share it out. Please leave me a comment after this. I love my comments, and I will see you guys next time on Tales Told in the Dark.